right, today's lesson is going to talk to you about composite solids. Composite solids is simply just taking two or more of our 3D shapes or solids and combining them together. So for example, we talked about cylinders the other day. Here is a cone. If we put these two shapes together by gluing together the cone's circular part to the cylinder's base, we can form a shape that contains two of our 3D solids. We could find the volume of this shape if we had a couple of measurements. Another example is if I had two of these cones, I could glue them back to back. And that is the first question that we're going to look at on our note sheet. It says find the volume of each composite solid in terms of pi. So if you notice, you've got the cone at this end, and it is glued to another cone that has the same size heights, and it has the same size radius. So that is good news for us because it's going to make our calculations easier. We just have to really find the volume of one and double it. So the entire volume of just the single cone on this end, remember the formula for a cone is 1/3 pi r squared h. I've already got the formula written, which you need to do, and then I need to plug in the radius. The circular part of the cone, remember, is where you look for your radius. The radius always goes from the center to the outside, so this is going to be a radius of 6. We'll make sure we square the radius, and we'll make sure we include our height. If our cone was standing upright, and if the picture had been drawn a little differently, you would see that that height is perpendicular to the circular base. So we definitely have a height of 8. Remember, if you're working in terms of pi, what needs to happen is you need to just type in your numbers. You're going to overlook pi right now. You're not going to type it in. You're actually just going to type in the numbers. So there's my 1/3. There's my radius squared. There's my height. All multiplied together, I get 96. But remember, you're not just writing down 96. You're writing down 96 pi because you actually still have pi in your answer. And it is not just plain old 96. It's really 96 times pi. But we want to leave our answer in terms of pi, so we don't want to mess with the decimal. So guys, the other cone in this diagram, remember, has the same circular base with the same size radius. It also has the same height. So we know the volume of the other cone that is glued to this is also going to have a volume of 96. So again, it saves us a little work because we don't have to calculate this 2 different times. What we do have to do is add together our two areas that both came out to be 96 pi. So 96 pi and 96 pi makes 192 pi, and the units would be centimeters cubed still because we are dealing with volume, which is 3-dimensional. So for a composite volume question, remember, you're still relying on your formulas for the shapes, but you're really picking apart what two shapes have been glued together. So, for example 2, this is like I showed you before. If you have a cylinder and you glue that cone to the top of it, you can form this shape. And this shape has definitely a cone and definitely a cylinder. So what you will do is be prepared to use the cylinder formula for this shape down here, and to use the cone formula for the shape. If you look carefully, we can tell that the height of the cone is 4 centimeters, as shown out here, and that the radius is 3 centimeters. Remember, the cone and the cylinder are going to share this circular piece right here, so we're actually going to use a radius of 3, not only in the cone, but also down here in our cylinder if you want to do both calculations at the same time. What's different about the cylinder is we have a higher height. Our height is 8.5, where the height of our cone, remember, was only 4. The other thing we have to remember is that the volume formula for a cone is 1/3 times pi r squared h. So we'll have to make sure we remember to put in our 1/3. And I think we'll do this one in terms of pi also. So don't type in pi, just type in your radius squared times your height. And I get 12 pi for the volume of the cone. And on the bottom, again, we're doing this in terms of pi, so we're just going to type in the numbers, 3 squared times the height, and I get 76.5. because our ultimate goal was to get the volume of the two shapes combined together, we need to take these final answers for volume and we need to add them together. So 76.5 plus our 12 is 88.5 pi. Our units were centimeters, so again, this is volume, so it's centimeters cubed for our final answer. You have another sheet that's going to go into your notebook, and I'm going to have you try this side on your own, reminding you that if you have a composite shape, that just means we have two different shapes glued together. So for this first example, you're going to start out with a volume of a cone and work on using these dimensions to figure out the volume of just the top part. But then when you come down here, you're going to set up a whole nother formula using the dimensions down here to find that. And then the total volume, remember, is these two answers added together. So try this page, see how you do independently, and then watch the second composite volume video so you can check your answers.